Hello and welcome to our next episode of Spill the Key. I'm here again with Waves,
Yo, what's up?
and today we are going to talk about guilds in general and finding a guild that suits your playstyle, how to get recruited into such a guild, and yeah, just the general procedure and mindset you should go on with. We have thought about that topic a lot lately because we had that struggle a lot of times and are still trying to optimize the process. But in general, we learned some important things you should think about before searching for a guild and want to share those with you. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'd say that the first and most important point is that you should start at your current level. So I think you should be realistic and should be honest to yourself and see how good you are and where you are in the game at the moment and go from there. So you always should have a goal where you want to end up, but you shouldn't just start out by trying to get into a top 100 guild or something like that. I think if you never raided before, for example, you should be aware of that and search for like a guild that maybe clears heroic or something, and get into that guild and see how you function as a raider in a guild, and just go from there and yeah, take smaller steps so you don't get like sad when you don't get invited to a guild that you apply to.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, not only for you, but for the guild you're applying for as well. You have to complement each other's playstyle, goals, mindset towards the game. Because, for example, if you're a player that wants to clear, for example, heroic in the tier and don't care about mythic at all, just want to do the heroic clear and then move on to the next tier when it gets released, you shouldn't apply for a guild that wants to raid 3 times a week with the goal to clear mythic, for example. That won't make you happy because they have much higher requirements at you that you don't want to fulfill, which is perfectly fine. And they won't be happy with your performance too, because they expect something else.
Yeah, and by the way, this is from our perspective, so it's mostly about raids. I mean, of course, if you search for a guild for playing Mythic Plus or PvP or something like that, there are also plenty of guilds, but this episode will most likely be around raiding guilds.
Yeah, that's definitely the topic we have the most to do with.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of content where you require a guild the most. Because, for example, for Mythic Plus, you only need a handful of players that you can easily acquire through your friend list or different communities. But for a raiding guild that needs easily 25 to 30 people to function properly, maybe even more, depending on how many alts you play, a guild is just the preferred structure to organize.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how do you go on when you're thinking about finding guild? For example, let's start with the example you don't have a guild yet, you don't have any friends to play the game with you, you're just alone in this world, so to say. What would you do?
I mean, chances are that some guild leader from a cesspool guild already messaged you and just told you that you should join the guild without giving any real context, or maybe too much context about what they do. Most likely they will tell you they do all kinds of content, which is more often than not a bad sign, because cesspool guilds are just pretty much guilds filled with a lot of people, almost like a few hundred or even 1,000 guys in a guild. And my advice is to just stay away from these guilds, since they are not a good representation of what a guild should be, in my opinion at least. So you won't really have that guild feeling in those guilds, because they are just too many people to really get like a connection to them or really get to know people in those guilds. So I think that you should start out by looking for a guild that does the content that you want to do. And you may ask yourself how you do that. And for example, if you want to find a raiding guild, you can check websites like WoW Progress, for example, where you can check the guilds that exist on your server. And I pulled that pack, that was not on purpose, I'm sorry. And yeah, you can see what guilds there are on the server in general, on your server, and you can see their raiding progress. And by that you can just see what guild you're looking for. If you're looking for a guild that's cleared like normal mode, then you can see which guilds did that and you can apply to one of them. Some have like application.
Oh my god, now I put something. 3 lashers, no problem.
Yeah, I mean I tanked 2 of the stuns, so can you only dispel 1 at once?
I can't dispel anything, and the
Yeah, I
Druid can't
mean,
either.
I didn't mean, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a dispel. We
Yeah.
just have to heal it up. But in
Yeah, I got
general, I
damage
think
now.
you can dispel both at the same time.
Okay.
Oh god, I stunned them. My bad. Yeah,
where was
and
I?
another lesson that is important in that regard is take baby steps. I mean, yeah, we established you have the goal to, for example, clear Mythic, and you're currently in a guild that clears Heroic and then stops. Don't look for a guild that has cutting edge after like 4 or 5 weeks. That isn't a realistic goal. Maybe look for a guild that has already cleared, yeah, 3 or 5 bosses, for example, in the tier, and hasn't cleared the full raid yet, but they obviously want to do that and want to play Mythic, and are looking for players with the same mindset, so you are more likely to get invited and learn. I think that's just a really important thing. You have to learn how to raid Mythic, how to how such a guild functions, how such a raid functions. I'll rest the heal as soon as I get rage.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I don't get any rage. What the fuck? Now I released.
Yeah, the pull is pretty scuffed. I guess we should have rooted the tide.
We shouldn't have pulled like 5 other packs in between. But yeah. Okay, where were we? We were talking about finding the right guild. So, for example, you looked for some time, found the guild that you think suits you, and now you have to apply. What's waiting for you there? Do you have any tips for the application? How would you go about that process?
I think that you should be aware of what you're capable of doing. Like if you're a good DPS or you're a good healer, but you shouldn't lie about your experience. Like you shouldn't say, yeah, I rated Mythic in this and that content. I think you should be just honest and say that, hey, I think I'm pretty good. I rated this and that, and I want to have a little bit more progress, or like a guild that has the same goals as me, because I'm not really happy in my current guild, and just play with open cards and tell them what you're aiming for, and you'll quickly see if the guild is like a guild that suits you or not. And if not, that's also perfectly fine. Chances are you won't find the perfect guild for yourself on the first try. Chances are even that you have to try multiple guilds until you find one that suits you perfectly. And I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, we're in that process right now. We are joining our like 3rd guild, I guess, at least together, in the near future if everything goes right. I mean, we're trialing right now in a guild, and we also didn't start with a cutting edge guild, and yeah, we started with a heroic guild that stepped foot like into a little bit of Mythic, and then we got into a guild that actually rates quite a bit of Mythic, where we are right now. And yeah, the first guild we left since they didn't meet our expectations in a way where we were happy with raiding there. And our guild right now is kind of falling apart or disbanding in some sort. At least they stopped raiding Mythic at a level where we are happy with it. So we also tried to find a new guild, and we looked around on our server, and there are not as many guilds on the server that raid at a level that we wish to raid and search for a feral and an enhancement shaman, so we always have a pretty hard time finding a guild. But we found a guild that let us try the raid for a while, and yeah, they seem pretty cool, and I hope we can join that guild. So as you can see in our example, you should always just take small steps and search for a while. Don't be greedy, take your time, be patient, and you will find your guild after a while.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to take more extreme measures, so to say, because, for example, we met in a guild on another server, and that server wasn't really much populated on the Horde side, at least, so we didn't have many options guild-wise. And since we reached the top of Horde raiding on that realm and still weren't happy with the results that we were getting, we decided, okay, we have to switch servers if we want to progress.
Yeah.
That advice is only important for those that are on a dead realm like we were, but yeah, definitely a thing you have to keep in mind. If there are no options on your realm, don't be afraid to switch.
Yeah,
And
I think it's pretty much worth the money to switch if you're passionate about raiding.
Definitely. And I mean, we weren't just blindly switching on a more populated server and then hope for the best. We messaged the guilds beforehand and asked them, hey, we are thinking about switching to your realm. Can we try out for your guild? Can we see if we have the same goals, the same mindset? Just if we fit each other, and if we do, can we join? And then we quickly did some trial raids with them and had a good feeling and joined them, and I don't think we regret that at all. We had a great time here. We have a great time here, but it's time for us to move on because we are looking for other things in the game. We learned a lot, we got a lot better progress-wise, and now we want to improve further. And I think that's a perfectly fine thing to do, and there are no hard feelings at all.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't be too strict about staying in a guild forever. I mean, of course, you shouldn't just guild hop around like from guild to guild. That's of course something you shouldn't do, but you also shouldn't limit yourself in your possibilities. I mean, just be honest to yourself. If the guild isn't doing the content that you want to do in the game, then that's perfectly fine. If you have friends in the guild, you can still play with them in every other content in the game, just not raiding. Or maybe they even want to switch the guild with you. I mean, that's a possibility too. I met Zykvar in my first ever real guild I joined, and we noticed that we had different goals than the guild, and so we switched together, and we are still raiding together to this day, just in other guilds, and that's perfectly fine like that.
Yeah, and we still have contact to people that we have played with earlier, even on the other realm, and now don't because we switched. We still can talk to them, we can play dungeons with them. It's not like we're away forever and can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we both even argued about you switching realms if we don't find a suitable raiding guild here, and I had my doubts about that. Not because I was afraid that we wouldn't play with each other because I wouldn't switch, just because I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend the money on that just to gamble on another guild.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have taken something away from us playing together. So no worries, just do it if you want.
Yeah, I think the game has developed into a direction that is really healthy for playing with people from all over the world, since the server restriction isn't as harsh anymore as it once was. So, I mean, if you play a lot of Mythic Plus, you can just play with whoever you want, and I think that's really good, since you can have friends and meet friends from every server, and yeah, so just for raiding, you obviously have to be on the same server. So I think that gives the decision in what guild you want to raid a higher importance. So you shouldn't just join whatever guild, but you also shouldn't be like, I don't know, you shouldn't be scared to change realms for a raiding guild. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and even that requirement of being in the on the same server to raid only applies for Mythic raiding. If you only want to do Heroic raiding, you can raid with whoever you want. You don't have to be on the same realm. So that's even one less restriction there.
Yeah, true. And if you never tried Mythic raiding before and always been raiding Heroic, but you have the feeling that you could play in a higher guild and you could do better than you do in the current guild, or you play a lot better than the people in your guild, don't be afraid to take that step and try to get into a better guild and try out Mythic raiding, since it's so much fun and it's so worth to try, and I would recommend it to all of you to just give it a shot and see if it's something for you, since it's one of the most fun things in the game for me personally.
Yeah, as soon as you think, that could be a thing I like, just try it out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true for most things in life, but yeah, also for Mythic raiding.
Yeah.
I don't think we need the right pack since we added something earlier, but I'm not sure. We'll just do an extra warm or something if we don't have enough.
Yeah. It's
I'll
on the
take
road,
the
I
next
mean.
Defiler kick.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's take it a step further. Oh god, I kicked the totem. Never mind. Yeah, you applied for a guild. They invited you to take a trial run with them. That's what most likely will happen. How do you prepare for such a run?
I think you should be well prepared. You should obviously have looked up some guides for the bosses if you never played them before. For example, if you try to step into Mythic raiding and have just raided Heroic before, you definitely should look up some Mythic guides before playing with them. But overall, just come prepared, have your consumables, have your Azerite ready and stuff like that, and just play the best that you can. So yeah, I mean, the first impression
is yours.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
to
know.
interrupt.
Yeah, all good. The first impression is always really important, so just try to not fuck up your first trial rating day. And yeah, I mean, if it fits, it fits. You just have to give it your best.
Yeah, there's one thing I cannot stress enough. Play the fucking tactics. It doesn't matter that you are a top DPS if you can't follow any instructions and only play for your DPS or your logs and not for killing the bosses. People will notice that and they won't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Playing your class just to do good or very good DPS isn't really hard. Playing your basic rotation isn't hard. What's hard is doing that while playing all the mechanics. So mechanics come first, damage comes after that.
And there will often be the situation where the guild that you are trialing in will give you specific tasks in boss fights, and just do the tasks and try to do them as good as you can, and not go like, I haven't done that before, I don't want to do that. Just try it. I mean, they give you the task to test if you can handle situations in the raid. So that's something that you should just try. Give it your best and do it. It's not that hard. There are pretty much no mechanics in the game that are incredibly hard. Especially in a trial raid where they understand that if you play that task and haven't done it before, that your damage will be lower. That's no problem. And yeah, so be open for that and try new things and give it your best. and you will be just fine.
I mean, we had that example yesterday. We tried out for that one guild, and they it wasn't a hard task. They just asked us to do specific kicks on a boss fight, which we never really had to watch and were never really assigned to, and we just did our best to do that, and
Yeah.
it worked out perfectly fine. And even if it hadn't, they wouldn't have hated us from now on, and then wouldn't have taken us any further. They just would have remembered that, but that isn't a death sentence for your progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
I mean, of course, it's always good if you can on top of playing the mechanics, be a good DPS, and you should do that if you have the ability to, but it shouldn't be your main focus.
Yeah, exactly. Also, another thing that is important, at least from my point of view, is not being afraid of speaking out your mind. I remember a situation where I was trying out for a guild, and that's the guild we are currently in. At least I hope I remember it correctly. It was one of our first raids. We already joined, I think, but it was one of our first raids, and we were progressing Mecha Talk. And as some of you surely know, Druids often have a task there to root the specific robots there with their mass root, so they can get managed more easily. The problem was there was another Druid in our raid not doing what he was asked. But I was really insecure because that was one of my first times on that boss. And the raid lead really got at me and said, "Oh my god, why can't you handle that? It's so easy. Why are you not doing your job?" And I thought, okay, I don't think that was my fault, or I didn't understand something correctly. Never mind, I'll do it better on the next pull. And the same thing happened again, and he got really mad at me. And I said, okay, I'll watch it, but here's a question of mine. I asked it, he answered. It was the thing I already thought that was the right play. I thought, okay, never mind. I'll just watch it more closely now. And I realized, okay, no, it was definitely the other guy. And he, got back at me again after the pull and said, "Oh my god, if you do it one more time, then I'll kick you out of the raid," or something like that. And I said, "Come on, open your fucking eyes. It's not me. I already told you once. I'll tell you a second time now. It's not me. So stop getting at me." Okay, we are shrouding, which is way too early. Okay, let's do those two first and then get back for more trash.
Yeah, I mean, we can't two chest anyway, so...
Yeah. I just don't understand the shroud there. I mean, he only had good intentions, I suppose, but that didn't help. I'll pull them back here.
Yes.
Okay, gaze and tentacles. Come here. Yeah, so if you're sure you didn't make a mistake and they're still flaming you just because you're a trial and they think you must be the one that fucks up, don't be afraid to speak your mind and tell them to fuck off and look at their own raiders. I think that left a good memory of me, or a good impression of me with them as well, because they knew I know my shit and I'm not afraid to tell them if I think they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you should always find the balance between speaking up if you have something to say that's like something that you know is right. You shouldn't just always give your opinion on everything, especially if it's something that the possibility is that you are not right when you're new in a guild. I think that you should bring yourself into conversations and give your opinion here and there, so that you're present and people know that you're there and get to know you and you are present. But in my opinion, at least, you shouldn't just like talk in every situation just because you think that you have to be present at all time. Like,
yeah, no, sure. There's value in shutting up as well.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I only spoke out at the third time he was flaming me, because then I knew, okay, there's something wrong. He is definitely at fault, not me. And
Yeah.
if we want to end this peacefully, I have to tell him now.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine. And I think if you just get into a trial raid, be friendly, be nice, be yourself, and play the mechanics right and everything, after a while, if you don't like fuck up every second pull or something, if you just play clean the whole evening, they will notice that and see, oh, our own raiders do mistakes here and there, and our trial played perfectly the whole evening. Like that's stuff that they will notice, and that's what you want them to notice.
Another thing we don't really touched yet, I think, or I just forgot that is perfectly possibly as well, is come prepared. Not only reading boss guides, as you said, but also bring consumables. Yeah, repair your gear before you start. Yeah, just.
Yeah, I
be
mean,
prepared.
I had that point already. I said it, but I mean,
Okay,
it's
now I
not bad
stressed it, so
to
so
say
they
it twice.
won't forget.
I mean, it's important enough to bring it up twice, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of the most important things. People, you can't come into a raid expecting that you either don't need consumables or that they will be provided for you. That is the case in a lot of guilds, that there will be a cauldron where you can just take the flask out and there will be a feast so you can eat up. That happens in some guilds, but you never should come with the expectation that that will be provided, because that leaves a bad impression as well.
Yeah.
For example, I did the mistake yesterday. We came through the raid relatively clear, but then we had a few wipes on Queen's Court, and I realized, oh, I didn't repair my gear before we started. And I tried like two tries with yellow gear. Then when my gear turned red, somebody else had to repair as well, so they didn't notice. I didn't have to ask for a repair bot or put down my auto hammer. So yeah, that went well, but you shouldn't expect it.
Yeah. So I think to come to a conclusion, you shouldn't make more out of the guild finding thing that it really is. It's really not that hard, and it's something that everyone has to do when taking the game seriously, and especially some content. So yeah, just give it a shot and try it. If you never try it, you won't find your guild to play with, and I think it's worth doing that since it makes the game so much more worthwhile.
Yes, I think that are the perfect ending words for this video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Leave us feedback. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Tell us some stories about your guild finding progress, when you had success, or some weird funny stories. Because we all know that those can happen as well when searching for a guild. And yeah, thanks again, and bye bye.
Yeah, see ya.